Hi, I'm Femi OK, and you're in the stream. Today, saying no to child marriage. We'll speak to women who rejected their roles as child brides. Our digital producer Malika Bilal is looking out for how this issue is being covered on social media. What do you have?
Well, so many of those women and those girls are using a hashtag to encourage other people to join that fight. And you can see it here. The group Girls Not Brides launched My Life at 15. They're asking people around the world what their goals were at that age. Now, Sohini in India tweets, "At 15, I only wanted to play." In Tanzania, you get a different story. This is, "At 15, I was married and abused with no education." And we want to hear from you as well. You can join this conversation with hashtag AJStream.
Do you remember when you were 15, what dreams and ambitions you had for your life? For young girls, being forced into marriage can take away that opportunity to choose a future. Now, according to the United Nations, an estimated 700 million girls are in child marriages, and 250 million of those were married before the age of 15. When young girls become brides, many stop going to school, and compared to women who marry later on in life, they face greater threats of domestic abuse and risk health complications from early pregnancy. Today we want to learn more about child marriage through the experiences of those who escaped it. With us to help us talk about this via Skype in Islamabad, Pakistan, Mehwish Shafiq, who works with the Badari campaign for women's rights. She resisted a child marriage when she was 15 years old. In Serekunda, Gambia, Aissatou Jeng is a project officer at the Girls Agenda, an NGO. She also resisted a child marriage when she was 15. In Bristol, UK, Gabriella Gillespie, she was forced into a child marriage in Yemen at the age of 13. Her story is told in the memoir, A Father's Betrayal. And in Islamabad, Pakistan, Kamar Naseem is a program coordinator with Blue Veins, a women's rights organisation. It's good to have you here, everybody. Gabby, let me start with you. Your wedding day, what do you remember about it?
I was terrified. I was 13 years old. I was married to a man that I hardly knew. I was a child. I'd been taken from the UK. I'd grown up as a British girl. So when I was taken from the UK and taken to the Yemen, I knew nothing about Yemeni life, about Arabic life. So my wedding day was terrifying for me, absolutely terrifying. Not knowing what was going to happen. It was a terrifying experience because on your wedding, if you're found not to be a virgin, you're taken back to your family and you're killed the next day. That's Yemeni culture. I don't know about other cultures, but that's Yemeni culture. So that was terrifying for me. That's what I remember about my wedding day, terrified of what the next day would bring.
I'm looking at a picture here that you showed us, and here this is you as a young girl, young woman, already a wife in Yemen. How normal is this situation for young girls to actually be married off very early?
That's very normal, actually. I was 13, and I was. I've seen younger girls. I've seen 10-year-old girls married. I've seen younger than that. I've actually seen 10-year-old girls pregnant. So that's very normal. I've heard statistics when they say that about the age of girls married in the Yemen. I can say that the village, because I was married in a very rural village, the village that I was living in, most girls were married by the age of 13 years old. Most of them were married at 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old. So it was very, very normal for them to be married at that age. I don't think many girls got to the age of 15 years old.
Right.
And that was very normal in the village where I was married and the surrounding villages. So
Sure.
it was a very normal practice.
Milika.
Femi, we're hearing so many more stories like Gabby's. This is one I want to share from Miriam. She writes in, "It took away from me, child marriage, the love of life. I thought about suicide several times. I didn't know who to turn to and what to do." She goes on to say, "There was always a light somewhere for me. I didn't know what it was at the time, but it is the only reason I am alive today." So, Aissatou, you see stories like that, and I know that you had a path that could have taken you down something similar. What happened to you, and when you heard that you were to be married, what was your reaction?
I consider myself somebody lucky, considering thousands of survivors of teenage pregnancy. So to having escaped now of not being, forced to get married at the tender age of 15 after giving back to my baby, is something that I celebrate, but something I also consider not to celebrate much, considering the number of girls who could have the same chance as I did, but they could not have it simply because they were forced to get married. It was not easy for me to just refuse or stood my ground. But the most important thing was my mother stood by me and gave me all the support I needed, because my paternal relatives thought getting married at that early age is the only solution to my problem. But proving them wrong, going back to school and then attaining higher education, being a graduate in political science, and now impacting positively the lives of many people. They've seen from the point of view I was talking from, and the reason why my mother was protecting me from, getting married at that early age. Now I have become somebody that many young people, and not only the young people in this country, but even the elderly people looking up to me as a mentor and a role model. This wouldn't have been possible if I was forced to get married after giving back to my baby at the tender age of 15.
So Aissatou, what was your strongest argument for telling people around you, your family, that actually it's a really bad idea for you to be married?
Education. I have always treasured the value and the importance of education in one's life, especially in the lives of a girl child, especially in the life of a woman. Education is the only solution to a person's problem, much more to a woman's problem. So I have seen what education has done for people in my country, and I want to be just like those people. So I have held on to education as my strongest weapon to say no to child marriage and succeed in life. So education is the most powerful weapon that I hold on to, and thanks to education, I am here today.
I want to show you a map. It's the world, but looked at through the eyes of the minimum age of marriage for girls with parental consent. Now, this map was put together by the World Policy Analysis Centre. I want to scroll down here and show you the legend. Anywhere that's the coral colour, there's no minimum age. 9 to 13 is the orange. Anywhere yellow, 14 to 15 years old, minimum you can get married. 16 to 17, light green, darker green, 18 years or older. Let me just scroll up here. If we head across through to Saudi Arabia, no minimum age. Yemen, no minimum age. Let's go see where Kamar lives, up here in Pakistan. Kamar, the minimum age in Pakistan is 16 years old legally, but down on the ground, what's the reality?
You see, according to the Pakistani laws currently, other than the Sindh province, the minimum age for the girl marriage is 16. But in reality, as Gabby said, that what we see in practice is we have seen girl getting marriage as about 9 to 10 years, and recently we have a case of a girl who is just 9 and already pregnant. And there are so many cultural practices like swara, giving women in compensation, and forced marriages, so which increases the possibility for women getting and the girls getting uglier. And my inspiration for joining the movement against child marriage was that there was a clear gap. There was a need for the men's movement, for the men to come forward and join the struggle to end the practice of child marriage. Because you see, and there are so many, when we often talk about the child marriage, we usually talk about girls, but in the part of Pakistan where I live, it's very common for even for boys to force into early marriages, and boys as young as 10 or 12 and 13, it's quite normal for them to get married. And according to and as you mentioned, if you look into the figures, according to the reports of the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, in certain districts of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the child marriage ratio is as high as 74%, which is a huge ratio.
Milika.
Well, Qamar, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because that's actually a point that someone online is bringing up too. This is Ahmed. He tweets in, it is very important to involve men and boys as fathers, future husbands, and leaders, because of course they have a role in this as well. Another person picks up on that theme and takes it a little bit further. This is Kiona. Mevish, I'm going to direct this video comment to you.
We have to empower women and girls and men as well. Get men to see the role of their daughters, especially as someone that can break the cycle of poverty for generations to come. We have to also be careful not to demonize parents who see child marriage as a way of securing their child's future.
So Mevish, I'm interested in you picking up on the point about not demonizing the parents. How did you talk to your own parents?
Well, it was a difficult task for me to talk to my own parents and to convince them. They were when after completion of my metric or 10th grade education, I came to know that my parents are arranging my marriage with a person who is like 12 years older than me. So it was a horrifying moment for me. I was terrified, I felt so helpless. My mother was on my side, but she was unable to do something because it was my father's decision, and she was unable to convince my father. So I have to take help from somebody, because there was no one else to help me for getting out of this situation. So what I did is luckily at that point in my the Bidari theater team came to my school for a theater performance. I met with the representative of Bidari. I told her my story, and I asked her to help me in the situation. She provided counseling to me as well, and she came to my house with me.
You make that sound so easy. You just went to someone and you said, help me with my situation. I know it must have been a lot harder though. How did you even get up the courage to approach her and then have her approach your parents?
It was hard for me, but I have no other option. This was the only hope I can see at that moment. So that was my only option, or that was my only chance. So I have to, in any case.
See, Gabby, when we look at Yemen, and you tell us how many young girls actually are married, that is absolutely normal. Where do you start with changing the tradition, changing the culture?
Sorry?
Gabby, where do you start with changing the culture and the tradition in Yemen? You said most girls are married off before they're 15. Where do you start?
Do you know, I think you need to start with the communities, with the elders. You need to go in and you need to start speaking with the communities themselves, with the elders. I don't think, unless the elders change, because the elders are the ones that control the villages. Some people call them the sheikhs, some people call them the elders, but they are actually the ones that control the rural villages. You have to start really with the men. The men are the ones that control everything, so we have to engage the men. I think mostly the men want to change. I think a lot of the men want change in their communities.
Why do you say that, Gabby? Gabby, why do you say that?
Because I think I've seen a lot of boys have seen the way their parents have been treated, and I think a lot of them don't like what they've seen. Like Kamal has said, You know, I've seen some of the articles he's wrote, and I have seen that a lot of men have seen the way that their parents have been treated, and they don't like it. They don't want this to continue.
That's a
and
really,
I think unless
that's a really good point. Kamal, you're described as Pakistan's male feminist. Because you grew up and your mum was what? You saw her being treated in what way? Tell us about that.
Yes, exactly. You see, my mother was forced into a marriage, and you know, when we were there, we've seen that there were a lot other women and the girls in the family who was also forced into marriages without, you know, without their consent, without ask for their choices, and you know, and then there was the need for me and for men like me to came up and you know to create a model of positive masculinity. And when you know Gabby said that it's important to change opinion, to reach to opinion leaders and imams, and that is what we are trying to do. We are trying to reach imams and prayer leaders and community elders, and we have seen some very good results as well.
So, Kamal, tell us about those conversations that you have, because they must be difficult conversations to have. Where do you start?
It is very important. You know, when you have to deal with the issue of child marriage, it's just not one strategy that can work, because it's the issue of child marriage itself is so multifaceted. You know, it's poverty, preference for young wife, lust sometime for the young wife, cultural practices, and then you know, and then the religious add into it. So you know, there are different strategies. You need to have laws. You need to work with child brides. You need to work with parents and communities and the imams, because you know, to perform the nikah you definitely need a religious person. It's compulsory in Pakistan who perform the nikah. We started
that's performing the wedding. What would you say to an imam though, Kamal, that would make him say, actually yes, I will tell the people who come to me that actually they need to wait before they marry off their young daughter? What do you tell that imam?
This is very, you know, like this is very strange, that you know, these imams usually when you talk to them, they are against the issue of child marriages, but usually when the nikah is performed, they go and still participate in it. Actually, in the perspective of law, and that is why we are calling, and all this campaign, when you know the Sustainable Development Goals were actually adopted by the member state of the United Nations. The Girls Not Bride initiated this campaign to know, you know, to connect the girls who suffer in the international community, so that the people can, you know, can relate this issue of child marriage to themselves. And that is we found very useful when, you know, we talk to men and imams and other people. You know, in this campaign, even everybody joined, and when we asked them, they were able to relate that at the age of 15, how they looked back at themselves. So you know, the issue of you know, it's illegal to perform. First of all, you know, when we tell them, because sometimes you have imams with a different perception of religion, different interpretation of religion. Some of them would believe into an early marriage, but while a lot of them even do not believe it. So you know, telling them that it is illegal to have a child marriage, because right now we have a 16-year of age in Pakistan for the legal age of child marriage. Telling them about the law, about its legal implications, about its social implications.
So it's about conversation and discussion, Kamal. Let me hold tight for a moment, because I want to get the community into the conversation as well. Malika.
Well, some of them are questioning what happens when girls do try to get away. This is Layla on Twitter. She says, when girls try to get away from such marriages, they're often brought back, and that has to do with tradition and customary practice. So there's a video comment here from someone who takes that a little bit further and why they're often brought back to those marriages. Have a listen to this.
And in the case of Tanzania, we have seen the extent to which if girls have to leave marriage, the parents have to return the bride price. Sometimes it could be 4 cows, or it could be as many as 10 cows. And because families are not willing to hand over the cows, girls continue to live in situations where they may be abused and be extremely vulnerable. And I think one of the biggest challenges around ending child marriage is the whole issue of the bride price.
So Aisatu, I could see you nodding your head during her comment there. How do you then address that? It changes the situation of economics for a family.
People assume that child marriage is a means of ending poverty, but If you look at the way that it's the opposite, child marriage is, it contributes to promote or, continue the vicious cycle of poverty. She talked about bride price. The bride price attached to child marriage is something that is actually forcing other parents to bring their daughters back even if they try to escape. So this is something that we have to raise the critical consciousness of the people that child marriage do not lift someone out of poverty. Instead, it makes you remain in poverty because you are marrying your daughter off without no form of economic empowerment, without no financial resources. And she might be married to a man who do not have any source of income or who is actually dependent on something that is not sustainable.
Right.
So at the end, she might get children, and then the children might force her to remain in that marriage, and then poverty will continue from her to
Okay.
her children.
Mevish, what did you want to add? Yeah, go ahead, Mevish.
I want to share a reason of the child marriage, the reason I faced. We are 4 sisters, so in here Pakistan or in our society, girls are considered as a burden, and parents want to get rid of this burden as soon as possible. This was, in my point of view, this was the main reason that society appreciate the marriage, the early marriage of the girls,
Right.
at early marriage of the girls at early age, because they think that the girls at early age are unable to say no, and they are considered as obedient, so they will be obedient brides or obedient wives. So these are some of the reasons, and the other is they want to cut off the education of the girls as well, because they will be, according to them, they will be don't remain obedient after getting higher education. So I just wanted to share the reasons which I faced.
Gabby, what were you going to say? Go ahead. Gabby.
When the girl said about the child being returned to the father, that happened to me so many times. I would escape my marriage and go back to my family after I would be beaten, sometimes to near death, and I would run to my family for help. And I would be returned to my husband. It happened so many times because girls are seen as a burden to their family, and we're not wanted. So my family would return me to my husband, and I would get beaten again, and I'd run for help until girls are actually valued. This is going to continue to happen, and girls are not valued. Girls need to be valued, and they need to be seen as able to contribute to society. Unfortunately, we're not seen as able to contribute because they're not able to have an education. Girls are not able to go to school, and girls need to be able to have an education. That's a huge thing. Girls need to be able to have an education.
Right.
If girls are not allowed to have an education, how are they going to thrive? How are they going to be able to prove
Gabby,
that they can contribute?
you were plucked out of school, you went to Yemen, you became a child bride. How educated do you feel now?
I'm not educated. I educated myself. Whatever I have done in life, I've done it through educating myself. My education ended at 13 years old. I was taken out of school at 13. When I was taken to the Yemen, my education stopped there. When I came back, when I managed to escape and come back to England, I never managed to return to education because I came back with 5 small children. So I'm lucky. What I have, I consider myself extremely lucky, but I never returned to education, and the education I have now is self-taught.
Gabby Gillespie, Aissatou Dieng, Mevish Shafiq and Kamal Naseem, we're taking you to the post show at stream.aljazeera.com. How is the online conversation going on, Malika?
This is one from Lewis. Communities are turning against the practice. We'll hear more on why in the post show.
Thank you, guests. Thanks for watching. See you online. Hello again, this is the Streams online post show. We're talking about child marriage and what's being done to end the practice. I want to get right back to the conversation via Malika. Malika.
Well, it's interesting. We headed into the post show with Gabby telling us the cost of what it was to try to escape and what happened when you returned to your family and your father. Sarah Mansour here asked on Twitter, or says on Twitter, less in the light is that future of the escapees. So thank you for sharing your story, Gabby. And she goes on to say, what are the prospects of living in a compressed society when you do try to escape? Kamar, I want to give this one to you because I want to know what you hear from people who try to escape, but also what happens to you and other campaigners who try to help these women escape. Because I know you have faced threats, Kamar.
Yes, exactly. You see, this is very difficult for the girls to say no, because most of the girls, are either uneducated, they are very much depending on the family, while there are very less protection services available either by the civil society or by the government themselves. For example, in the province where I work, we only have just 5 shelter house in the whole province, where we have only 1 shelter house. And usually when girls, when they say no, they have little choices, and then they are forced to say yes because they know that they have nowhere else to go. And secondly, when we talk about the issue of child marriage, we have to see that because there is different phenomena of child marriage. All child marriages are not forced marriages as well. I mean, we have seen a huge number of child marriages happening where, because in the society there is so much glorification of the marriage itself. Very young girls, the media, the print and electronic media, the movies, the dramas, they focus so much on the issue of marriage that the girls, even in their early stages, they start thinking about getting married, and lots of girls we know who get married by their choice, and this is very dangerous. And that is why we ask governments to have laws being there and to find mechanisms and when there are laws to have mechanism to implement it. For example, Mavish was quite lucky because she had help, but the area where we live in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and FATA, the education level is just 6% and 13% in certain area, which means that about 80% of girls never goes to school. And because they are never going to school, they do not know about their choices. They have no, they have no options. They've got no helps. And then in the patriarchal society, they cannot say no. And then when the girls say no, we have seen a lot of girls who either commit suicide, either they are killed by the family, because if they escape from the child marriage, it means they have to escape from the family. And if they are, if they leave their family, if they run away to avoid child marriage, they are found, and then later on, there's cases of honor killing where the people who they were supposed to get married would find them and kill them. So it's very common in certain areas of Punjab, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and FATA. So women usually submit themselves into the child marriage because they want to survive. I mean, they choose a difficult life, and if they say no, there is a lot of potential that they get lots of violence, and even large number of them even get killed.
Sure. Mavish, I feel like you were about to just tell us something, and then I want to come back to you, Gabby, as well, because I want to talk about Izzy. Mavish, you go first.
Yeah, in connection with Kamar's point, I want to add that there's a need to raise awareness about this issue, because in here, people don't consider it as a problem. There's a need to aware the girls that early marriage is not good for health. Education is important. Their choice is important.
So Mavish, hold tight for a moment. Now just slow you down a little bit. Do you talk to young girls? What do you tell them?
During the session Bedari conducted with the young girls and the young boys. We tell them the importance of their lives, the importance of their health, and the importance of education, that how they can save their life and they can give importance to their self by getting education or by.
So when you say that, do you see that they understand that? Are they thinking, yes, there's these opportunities that I have that I didn't realize I had, or are you having to really persuade them?
Change takes time. it's not like that we done just one session and we never met with them again. We conducted a series of sessions. So there is a change. The girls came to us, and we conducted self-procession with them as well. So they like they want to improve their selves now.
Yeah. Okay. We were talking about what happens to people who try. Hold tight a minute, Kamal, because there was something that you said that I know would have resonated with Gabby. And as Kamal was talking about youngsters trying to escape from a child marriage, I was thinking about your sister, your beautiful sister, Izzy. I've got a picture here on my laptop. Gabby, this is an awful, awful story, but will you share it with us? Because I think it's really important.
Izzy was sold, and I'm going to say sold because that's how I consider young girls when people call it a dowry, I call it sold. Young girls are sold. My sister was sold. She was 17 and she was sold to a 60-year-old man to be his second wife. And she said, I don't want this. She told my dad, I don't want it. And she said to him, if you force me into doing this, I will take my own life. And he basically said, do it. If you're going to kill yourself, kill yourself. He didn't believe she would do it. And she took her own life. She attempted 3 times to take her own life. And on the 3rd time, she succeeded. She took her own life on her wedding night. In her wedding gown. She took her own life.
See, that story,
it didn't stop him from doing what he did to us.
See, that story by itself is a story that just really wakes you up to the implications of what happens when you ask young people to get married when they're still children. Kamar, you kind of dodged this question. I think it's a really important question. Malika put it to you a little bit earlier. There are actual personal costs to you campaigning. You're all campaigning to stop child marriage. But what you're doing is dangerous. Can you explain the danger?
Exactly, because you see, in the area where we live, it's such a militarized area, and people want to enforce their own version of Islam, which somehow encourages child marriages as well, and they find religious interpretations which they believe child marriage is very okay. And when you stand up for these issues, you definitely, there is a pushback, there is a backlash you face. In relation to our work, we have lost so much. For example, one of our colleagues was killed in 2013. He was beheaded by militants during his work in FATA. It was Welcome to School initiative, where we were encouraging girls not to drop out and stay in schools. In 2013, my house was bombed by Taliban, and my house was exploded, and my brother was kidnapped, and he remained in captivity for 69 days. And then, we have to get him back after a lot of negotiation, and after compromising our program that we would quit out of certain area and we would not talk about the issue of women's rights in FATA, in the federally administrated tribal area. So definitely, and again, then, there is a rejection by the community for you, because they feel that you are not a real man. You're a man, you're talking about women's rights, and men should not be talking about women's rights.
So, okay, let's just stop on that point. Real men don't talk about women's rights, and your response is what, Kamar?
My belief is, and my response is, that real men actually talks about women's rights.
Yes.
And I very much believe that the liberation of women is actually the liberation of men. And I believe that men needs to learn it, and sooner or later they will learn it, because you see, men has a greater role in stopping the child marriages as a brothers, as a fathers, as a sons, and even an husband to be. And we have seen very good examples where young men actually refused and said that they will wait until the girls at 18. And there were certain communities where men get together and they form community agreements that onward in their community there would be no child marriage until the girls are 18.
All right, come on, we're right at the end of this show right now, so I'm just going to ask you very briefly, do you feel you're winning this battle for hearts and minds, the idea that young girls and young boys should wait until later in life before they get married? Do you feel that you're making progress?
I believe we are making progress, because with more education, with more awareness, we are trying to tell people it's just not a social issue. It's just not a medical issue. It's an issue of empowerment. The issue of empowerment for both.
Gabby?
And when you get a child right,
Come on, I'm going to share this because we're out of time here, so I want to hear from Gabby. Gabby, progress or no progress?
Yes, I think young people are coming out in force saying we don't want this anymore. We don't want to be like our parents. We want something different. I think we're winning the fight, yes.
Isatu, progress?
There's been a shift in the approach people were using before with regards to ending child marriage and any other traditional practice. Now we're seeing more involvement of young people, and more young people are being meaningfully engaged in the fight against child marriage. This has actually registered a lot of success, because even if you look at the Gambia, more young people have bring themselves forward to fight against child marriage. So this is actually actually contributed a lot to progress in child marriage.
I'm hearing progress from 3 of the guests. Mevish, what's your take? Are we making progress? Are you making progress?
Yes, we have seen positive response from the young girls and the boys. They speak for their rights now. They are very much interested to have their rights. We have seen a positive response from them.
Kamar, Gabby, Isatu and Mevish, thank you for being part of this program. I'm going to leave the last word to the community, and it is what?
Well, this is Janet, who says progress is possible. She says once parents understand that an educated daughter can result in a stronger family economy than selling them, this will change.
All right. We want to find out more about ending child marriage. Look at #EndChildMarriage, #MyLifeAt15. Check out Badari and also Blue Veins. So many places where you can support this campaign. Thank you very much for watching the stream today. Take care.